Oh, fuck. Fuck.
Are you okay?
It's like I'm blinded.
Are you okay?
It's like they're fighting a war in there.
Calm down. Calm down.
Tactical nukes are going off in our refrigerator, and you want me to calm down?
I'm sorry. You should see your face.
Jeez, it looks like it's escalating.
We can't expect them to outgrow war in a couple of minutes.
So, what are we gonna do?
Order out for pizza?
Oh yeah, you know what goes after.
Pizza solves everything.
Because that's what you do when there's a nuclear war, right?
Yeah,
If you
Hey,
still can, yeah, why not?
you can even put the pizza out of the window and you'll cook it out itself.
Hello, everybody. I am your host, Robert, and welcome to Science Fiction Remnant.
This is
Robert
Gio.
Samuel.
I am Elizabeth Winstead's husband.
And I'm mad scientist Rain. Robert, you're sounding a little bit high there.
He's been inhaling a lot of helium, bro.
No, that's that. I was visiting the elevator there because
They actually don't allow him going into supermarkets now because he actually got caught a couple of times sucking up on the tank of helium balloons.
All right.
Oh,
They got
welcome.
nothing left to put in the balloons.
This is gonna be one of those episodes.
What
It
a-
is. Is there usually one of those episodes though?
Yeah.
Well, get these people. This is a 4 or 5 minutes short film. Let's see how long we can extend that.
If you take away the letters and the credits and all this stuff,
3 minutes.
it's like I thought it was like 10 minutes. The whole thing is 11.
Oh, it's not 10 minutes. Can't be,
Yeah, it
bro. I
is.
watched the whole thing in less than 6.
Yeah,
Yep.
I could have
Let me
sworn it was
check.
like maybe 10 minutes when you take all the stuff out.
I'm gonna tell you right now.
So
Damn it.
yeah, we have covered short episodes before. This is technically this is a TV show, and this is one of the episodes in the TV show. So we have covered stuff even shorter than this before, if I'm not mistaken.
Have we?
I think there was one there.
I
It was
mean,
like minutes.
Minutes.
So yeah.
So besides this, which didn't take very long at all to watch, what else have you guys been watching? Robert's been watching Star Trek. I know that.
Yeah. Well, Star Trek Voyager. Finally, we were getting there. The long stretch, just before we started watching it all over again. But I started watching also a scientific railgun as an anime. Which, if you guys
Finally, Ray.
have not
Finally,
if you guys have not watched, I recommend you guys go ahead and give it a try, just in preparations, because there might or may not be an episode on that. So
there will be. I'm telling you, there will be. I'm gonna come over there and make you.
One day, guys. One day.
So, Gio, what about you? What have you been watching sci-fi related?
Sci-fi related. I've been watching. Actually, I started watching. There's only one episode, but Ninja Kamui, freaking badass. And without giving too much spoiler, imagine this guy was escaping from his past life as a ninja, and then his whole family got killed, wife and kid, and then he's actually going after every single body. So it's like the anime version of Denzel Washington Equalizer.
Ninja Kamui.
There you go.
He had to kill the seriousness with it.
You did, didn't you?
I also did a rewatch of Inception and the Book of Eli.
Oh, nice.
Are you sure you watched it, or you weren't just dreaming about it?
No, I watch it. I remember when a movie started and finished.
But was the top spinning? Would it stop spinning?
Well, what's a DVD? I've been moving, so there's no internet on the old house, and I have a little portable DVD player.
Oh, so you may not know then, because there was no spinning top. So you
What do
might
you
might.
mean? The DVD was spinning.
Well, yeah,
Eh,
but
eh.
you see it.
And I actually rewatched twice more something that we recently recorded, Dune 2021, because the
No.
second one is coming.
Oh
And
yes.
last but not least, I've been playing Warhammer 40K Dark Tide. Badass game, bro. Definitely suggest it. What
Been a
about
big
you,
fan of
Ray?
40K. Me, well, I watched a little movie. You probably never heard of it. It's called Alita Battle Angel
What is
for
that?
the
What is a
52nd time.
what is
that?
can you,
What is it?
I wonder what
You,
is
you really should check it out. I think you'd like it. I watched that for a watch party for the 5th anniversary of the movie release.
As long as the
Loved
main
it.
heroine character is not a dumb little biatch like Sabine, I'm more than happy.
Oh my God, he's still he's still sour, but Sabine.
Yeah.
I have to rekindle the
Yeah.
hate once in a while, right?
If you guys don't know what's going on, you should actually. I mean, I would, just pause us right now, go back to our back catalog, find the Ahsoka episode, and listen to it, and you'll know what we're talking about. He's still sour.
Oh, yeah.
He's still sour.
Talk
Hate
about
boners.
undeserving
So
people.
many hate boners.
Yeah, I mean, what it can do? I mean, simple like me and our mad scientist here can we have a hater. I'm sorry.
Hey, for what it's worth, hate is a stronger emotion than love. So she's got my feelings. I will slap that soft face.
Nice. So, should we move on to the next?
Moving on.
But just before you move on, I was also going to say that the second core, which is like a normal length series of an anime, is 12 episodes. So if it gets 2 cores, which is 2 times 12, so it's 24 episodes. It's episode 19 this week of Shangri-La Frontier, which I've mentioned before, which is an anime based on teenagers playing full dive VR MMO games. And I just have to say it's been pretty epic because they're doing a boss battle against a Colossi, which is one of the 7 unique monsters of the Frontier world. And it went for 4 episodes for one battle. Far out. Is this ever going to end? But it was pretty epic.
I need to pick it up. I need to pick it up because I haven't watched Schralinga since he got to the second town, and he fought somebody that was in a previous game with him, I think.
Oh yeah. Well, that particular character is involved in this boss battle. So
and you should not say people playing full dive MMO. You should say people not playing shitty MMOs because that's the whole premise of the game of the show is that this guy is addicted to playing trashy games.
well, the reason why he got asked to help with this boss battle was because he was supremely skilled because he used to play trashy games where you had to be supremely skilled to get anywhere.
Oh my god. Yeah, well, you gotta have some kind of skill level so you can play through the freaking bugs.
Exactly.
Like,
but
the target is here, but let me shoot it there because if it is in the air, that's where it hits it.
Yep, exactly. So I mean, he's got the ability to analyze the shit out of what's going on and work out how to beat it. So that's like one of his big skills. But yeah, it was a pretty epic battle, and by the end of it, it was a good payoff. So I'm quite enjoying Shangri-La Frontier, and I recommend it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, so moving on to the next segment. We are Science Fiction Redneck.
This is the funny science fiction podcast.
We are the Caribbean Science Fiction Network.
We are Monorats.
We are One Chord Level 2 Podcast.
This is Jesse from Sudden But Inevitable and Open Pike Night.
This is sci-fi.
So, do you remember back in the day? I mean, Robert will remember because he's about my age, but this may not have happened to Geo because he's had the internet for pretty much most of his, conscious life. But back before the internet was around, you would get a sci-fi series coming on TV, and the first thing you'd hear about it was the ads on TV, and be like, "Oh, cool, a science fiction show! I gotta watch that." Or once VCRs were invented, yes, I'm that old. It's like, oh, I got to set that up to record because they had timers on them. Wow, it was new, it was high tech. But you'd be like, you'd have a bookshelf full of VCR tapes of your favorite shows because it was so bloody hard to find something to watch, and you'd go back and watch them until the tapes died because there wasn't new sci-fi coming on every 5 minutes. You couldn't go and just stream a movie whenever you felt like watching one. We have it so good now.
Oh, yes.
But not only do we have access to tons of sci-fi now, but we also have access to information about what's good. But where do you get that? Because obviously, like, you go to Rotten Tomatoes and you can't trust the tomato meter because, they're all paid off. So, the number of times that you go and look at that and you watch the movie and go, what? Where did they get that score from? But it's the viewership rating is the one that you look for, because that's what the average Joe, the average sci-fi lover or whatever genre it happens to be, thinks about that movie, and it's averaged over thousands of people's likes or dislikes. So you get a real score, and that's the one you want to look at. So basically, it's other people, other lovers of the genre that you happen to like, in this case, sci-fi, that are the ones that are going to be able to tell you if something's good or not. So how do you get in contact with these people? Well, it's a bit of a head scratcher because often science fiction fandoms are quite siloed. They hang out with other people of like mind, which is a very comfortable thing to do, but you often don't get any sort of crossbleed between these silos, fandoms, IPs, and then it's a little bit hard to find out what's new and interesting. So how do we sort this out? Well, Robert had this great idea to come up with a hashtag. This hashtag, this is sci-fi. Put that on, I found this great new movie or this old gem or whatever, and you throw it out there into the interwebs with this hashtag on it, and people can then find it. So that's the point of This is Sci-Fi. It's nothing particularly epic or amazing. It's just a way to find out new sci-fi. Example, our good friend Eli Zimmerman from over at sci-fi-history.net, he's posting regularly on X, and I see a post here I'm looking at right now where he was celebrating Jules Verne's birthday on
Twitter.
February 9th. X. It's called X now.
Twitter.
X. It's called X. They changed the name. Get with the times.
Twitter.
You poor old man.
No, Elon Musk.
Get with
You're
the
not gonna be
times,
our
you
best
poor
friend.
old man.
You're not my best friend, Elon Musk.
Anyway, a platform which shall not be named, Eli Zimmerman is posting.
Should not be
on
named. What is it? Voldemort?
Yes.
Voldemort.
Oh, you're screwed. You are so screwed.
I just call it like a boogeyman.
Feb 9th was Jules Verne's birthday. He's the author of amazing stories like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and he was born in 1828. So Feb 9, 1828, Bubby Jules Verne was popped out, and it was all amazing history after that for sci-fi. So
Yes.
there's a neat little bit of trivia. And check out Eli Zimmerman if you haven't already, because sci-fi-history.net is a great resource where you can find out all sorts of things about science fiction IPs. And much like us, he loves everything to do with sci-fi. So you can find just about anything there.
Awesome.
And if you would like to leave us a message relating to sci-fi, you can call us on 305-563-6334. That's 305-563-6334. Leave us a message. Leave us a rating or a comment. You can throw some hate mail towards Geo if you like. We're always happy to see that come tumbling in. And of course, if you would like us to, we can play your message on a following show. Thanks very much, Geo. I appreciate the symbolism there. If you want to know what he's doing, you should check us out on YouTube. It will drop a month after this one does in the pod, and you can then see what Geo has been up to. The reason why we'd love you to come and join us on YouTube and give us a like and a subscribe is because if we get 10,000 subscription, something amazing will happen. Geo, what amazing thing will happen?
Well, we have a hashtag for that. It's called 10K ass tattoo. But again, we might not do it on my ass. Well, if you guys want to see my ass, that's fine. I'll do it on my ass. But we'll make a tattoo. We'll make a poll with several tattoos. Oh, I have that one that I like. That is a Master Chief doing a hand sign saying "Spartan in the street, lover in the sheets." Or I can do the science fiction remnant logo too on my butt cheek. Why not? Even purple. So let's get those subs up, guys. 10K.
Yeah, we might be able to do a video if it's not, in that general area.
Well, I mean, with all the chicks are showing on Twitter and TikTok and Instagram, one hairy butt cheek won't hurt anybody, right? Besides, my butt is tight.
You know, shave it.
I had to shave it for that too.
Yeah.
Just a cheek though.
I don't know. I always find myself speechless somehow.
Well, it's just as well that you're speechless and not Chaos because it's his section next.
Okay, so let's move on to the next segment.
See, you can never surprise me anymore because you actually put this is sci-fi before. I had to be in La La Land for you to catch me off guard, man. Well, today's shout outs actually. One is for Latin Jukebox. You can find actually on Twitter. People call it X nowadays. Rocco La Del Rolo, just like that. We'll put it on our reference, and also we'll give a nice shout out for Movie Drone Podcast, and you can find them on Twitter, not X, at movie_drone. Thank you guys for giving us a shout out and actually sharing with everybody the love for sci-fi and our show. So right back at you guys. You can find them on Twitter, and from there you can actually find all their social media platforms so you can listen to them. They are wonderful podcasts. They also have great things to share. So go and check them out. And that's everything for today's shout outs.
Awesome. So moving on to the next segment.
The Alita Armin News.
Oh, dear. You got to throw a spanner in there, don't you?
He used Hugo's voice. Ray, what do you think about
that? That's the pan after he's had his willy chopped off.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true.
The worst part is I visualized it when you said
Of course I knew you'd do that.
That could be bad though. In the future, like Alita's future, if Sapan gets his winner chopped off, then he'll get a bigger one. That's it. He'll do like a Space Truckers. Pulsar vortex stick.
Will it have a pull start?
He's got a caterpillar arm down there.
Oh, Jesus.
If you guys don't know what we're talking about, you should listen to our episode on Space Truckers. That just killed us. Oh my God. Okay. Enough derating.
Thank you. I'll just climb back over here onto the rails and off we go again. So, Radio Chaos episode 202. Yes, it's been going for 5 years now. So, yeah, quite a few episodes. It was our one of the main guys in the production of the Radio Chaos live stream, Creaky, was celebrating his birthday. He's turned 75. He's such a young man. We had a birthday event, which was an Elite Watch Party. So it was both his birthday and also the 5th birthday of Elite Battle Angel being released in cinemas. So we had a watch party, and we had quite the list of guests on. It was quite amazing. We had a full panel of the regulars, which was myself, Angelus, Creaky, and Channel, which was covering Brisbane, Sydney, Denver, Colorado, and Poland. And then we had Vladdy in the UK, we had Kubaz in Czechoslovakia, and we had 3 other guys who I never managed to get from them where they were from, but I'm pretty much sure they were spread pretty widely. But the Badman, Finn, and Schmendrick 19. So we all jumped on, and what we do with these watch parties is we go 3, 2, 1, play, and everybody starts watching on their local machine, because of course if we played that movie on the live stream we'd get yeeted, and then we talk over the movie about the scenes that we're watching, because there is no director's commentary on any of the discs, which is a shame. So basically we make up our own, and that's the fun we had with the Elite Watch Party. We do that a couple of times a year usually, checking that one out, and yeah, it was a good day.
Today was a good day.
Eat it.
Sorry? Drugs. It's got to be the drugs.
Are you sure it's not this beer?
Could be. Maybe you're planning to downsize quite literally and live in a freezer.
Okay, so I think I'm ready. I think.
That's what she
That's
said.
new.
Don't know yet, but I think I'm ready. Oh.
Okay.
You guys care to explain for the listening audience, or?
All I can say is that Gio wins the internet today, so it's all yours, Gio. Take it.
Go to YouTube if you want to see more, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Has to be a few secrets for YouTube, doesn't it?
So this episode, I think I wanted to thank Gio for turning me into Love, Death, and Robots. I remember him trying to make me watch the show.
Trying to make him not feel traumatized like Dark Mirror or Black Mirror.
Exactly.
I was confused.
He's trying to, make it better for me, and I wasn't sold on it yet until one day because I had on my list to watch, and I noticed the episodes are short enough, so I said, it's not going to hurt anything. So I started playing those, and
oh, buddy, I can show you 2 minutes or something that is gonna let you awake for nights on end.
No, thank you, but
no, actually, he was the one that introduced me to that piece of shit, that infamous piece of crap.
The yogurt feed.
Oh my god, bro!
I should say it in character.
The legend of the Oberfield.
There you go. So, you guys know about this. I just want to say it again because we have covered a couple for this TV show already. However, this is one of my favorite episodes of that show. And it's because the first time that I watched it, it was just clever. It wasn't like really deep. it's what did we find out, Gio? That the whole episode is it 10?
You were right. Yeah, like 10 minutes. The whole thing.
You take away everything, and it's 10 minutes long, so it's short, and it's so much fun to watch. It has things that you never really think about, yet in a way that is not. I want to say it's not hard sci-fi, but I don't know, because the topics in there they might guide
They're
you through
very sci-fi. The topics in there. It's about human evolution and
that.
technology
So do
in a freezer.
I'm gonna ask exactly. I'm gonna ask this, but I don't know what the answer will be. So did we find the plot?
Oh shit! I completely forgot about the plot.
Oh my god, you got Ray out of guard.
No, but that was not my intention.
The
It's like
unthinkable has happened.
this thing is so short and it's so much fun to watch. I don't want to say that it doesn't have much content, but it's what is your thought on that? I mean, it's in the it was just so much fun. I enjoyed this episode, and I've been wanting to do this episode for such a long time, considering it's short. Since we started doing the Love, Death, and Robots series.
I
I
love
found the
this.
plot. That didn't take long.
I love this series. If you and you should know that, Robert. This is one of the series I've watched probably 3 times over. Another one that I like a lot, like this, and you would think is Black Mirror, but it's not. Is Oats Studios that also has some short films like that, a bit darker, but not as nuances like such nuances like the Black Mirror shows. If you put it some way, very good movie too.
Nice. Ray, how long is the plot? I mean, because
It's one paragraph.
Okay.
Oh, I found a 3 paragraph one.
Okay.
Well, no, it's not actually.
Okay,
It's
so let's go with Ray's. I was kind of curious about the plot because it's 10 minutes.
I mean, the plot is so short and simplistic that we could say it just by what we saw.
Go ahead, Ray. I mean,
A couple, Gail and Robert, find an ant. Robert, it's you, Robert.
Robert.
A couple, Gail and Robert. I keep saying Robert. Rob. Find an antique refrigerator after they move into their new apartment. Opening it to get ice, they discover a tiny preserved mammoth, and returning to the freezer, they realize that a fast-moving, time-dilated civilization is developing. Within 10 minutes, within 10 minutes, the civilization goes from medieval era to industrial revolution, then modern day. But some minutes later, they see the civilization use a nuclear bomb, which burns Rob's face. It was a tactical because it was just Fighting the fridge civilization escalating their warfare, they close the freezer and order pizza. Hence the quote at the start of the episode. After an hour, and afraid that the diminutive race did not make it, they open the freezer and find the civilization has rebuilt and has moved further into the future with technology evolving at an unprecedented level. They ultimately evolve into a race of energy beings, returning to a singularity and vanish from the freezer. Believing the mini people are gone, Rob unplugs the refrigerator to clean it out the next morning. As they have breakfast, they find the freezer has now had a prehistoric world with primitive sapiens under attack by dinosaurs.
That is, in my opinion, so clever. And in a way, I wish some writer out there will find a way to make this a full-fledged movie. I don't know. I can see a movie where like there's a perspective from the people inside, but I just enjoyed it so much. The first time that I watched it, it was just fun, and I was sad when it was over. So,
I mean, come on, Robert, you want an 8th part for Harry Potter?
Exactly. So that is basically the first question that we ask. How old were you, and what was your first impression? So I want to start with Gio because you're the one who actually turned me into this TV show. And I know this might not have been one that he actually watched until I mentioned it. But I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts, and then we move on to Ray and telling me when was it the first time he saw it and what was his first impression. But Gio, since you're the pro here in this series,
I like when you call me that. Stop.
what
Don't stop.
what is the thought? What is your thought? I don't know when you watched this and what was your first impression.
I watched this probably a year after it came out. I am a big fan of Love, Death, and Robots. One that I want to cover is the very first episode, actually, the one that they are like connected to the beast fighting.
Mm-hmm.
But I like all of them. Like I think that it's a very clever way of filmmaking, and it's a category of its own. Um, and I think I've rewatched this 2000. It came out 2017, right?
2019.
2019. So I'll
Well,
probably watch it 2020 latest. Because
the
when I discover Love, Death, and Robots, I probably binge watched the whole thing maybe 2 or 3 times.
okay,
Because this was in season 1. There's 3 seasons.
yeah. So, what was in particular this episode? What was your impression on this episode when you watched it for the first time?
Oh, it was captivating. It's like nothing I've watched before, if you think about it. Which I think is one of the things. This is the kind of filmmaking that when you watch it, you think this was some kind of successful assignment for filmmaking university task. Like when somebody does a homework, like a finals homework or like a thesis, and they had to make a movie from Full Sail, something like that, and it was so good that he actually made a breakthrough. That's what I felt when I watched this. You know, and the reason that I look at it that way and I don't look at it as mainstream filmmaking is because it's so outside the box, and it's one of its kind when you watch it. Like there's nothing you watch that really is like that. There's nothing to compare it to, and that's the beautiful thing about it. It's the authenticity of everything within it.
Yeah.
And I think that everybody, it doesn't matter what kind of movie or material you like, it'll captivate you and have you watch it and like it. It's one of those things I know it's for everybody and you can enjoy it. And it's 10 minutes. There's no compromises. You can literally watch this on your poop break. I'm always going to say that whenever it's a short film. There's nothing better than watch a good movie while you take a shit.
And there you have it, folks. Life lessons from chaos.
Yeah, don't stay on the toilet so long that your legs go numb. Don't do that. It ain't fun.
He's speaking from experience, folks.
Yeah, imagine you getting out of the toilet, kicking the floor. I can feel my legs.
And the famous words that may ended up in one of our T-shirts is
moving on.
Moving on. Ray, when was the first time you watched this, and what was your?
I'm pretty sure the first time I watched this was in 2019 because when I heard about this show from a friend, it's well before I knew you guys. It was basically like, oh, that sounds cool. And I started watching, and just like Gio said, the very first episode when you start watching is the one about the combat cyborgy things, which had a really cool twist.
Cyborgy,
yep, that's right, cyborgy. But it had a really cool twist to it, and much like a lot of these stories, they're all very they're a little bit on the whimsical side, a little bit loose, fast and loose with the science, but they are enjoyable and entertaining, and that's what you really want in the end in sci-fi. I mean, space travel is boring. Space combat's probably going to be really boring as well if it's physically accurate. I mean, that's why Star Wars is not physically accurate, because they didn't want it to be boring. But yeah, I mean, look,
Yeah, imagine how
as a
many
piece,
fights would end with you turning off the light sword and turning it back on after it crosses each other.
exactly.
Going.
Gotcha.
And how funny it will be actually when you touch somebody and better burning it, it just blows up.
Yeah,
There you
that's problematic. Anyway, splody people. But let's get off the physics of Star Wars back onto this. I mean, I feel they did a really good job with this one in the entertainment department. The couple have a good sort of balance the way they talk about things, and it's a little bit of comedy, a little bit of like concern, a whole bunch of wonder. And of course, wonder in science fiction is often an untapped resource, and it's very important, especially for younger people who may go into science in the future, that you keep their sense of wonder alive. That's what makes great scientists. I wonder what would happen if is the beginning of many statements which scientists have said before they've discovered something amazing. And usually once they've discovered something amazing, they don't usually say eureka or this is it or whatever. They go, that's weird. that's usually the thing they
You're
say.
being
That's
poetic now,
weird.
Ray. They go, oh
Right?
shit.
Well, oftentimes it's oh shit and then something explodes in your face, but I was trying to be a little more gentle than that.
Yeah, he was being poetic.
Yeah. So, I mean, as we dig into this one, I'm going to probably get more and more brutal with it because scientifically accurate it is not. This is definitely science fantasy,
Dun, dun, dun.
and while it is very entertaining and quite fun, you can pick holes in it that you drive a full-size truck, not a tiny miniature little people's truck through. So yeah.
But what is the size in washing machines? That's what I want to know.
Big people's washing machines or the tiny folks washing machines? Because their skyscrapers are only about this big, so it's size of dildos. So
oh yeah, oh my god, yes.
Dildo looking building.
Oh, nice. And I agree with your statement there, Ray. This is one of those that I don't know, if you're like really into science, you would have to suspend disbelief.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If you are just into science fiction, and let me clear that out. All branches of science fiction that is not hard science fiction. If you are into hard science fiction, you might have to suspend disbelief slightly. But other than that, it's just fun. Just like you said, it's a fun watch. It's a real fun watch. So one of the things that I actually thought about while watching this, and so short, you get to watch this so many times, is how many type civilizations do you think we watched in this 10-minute clip? And I guess we can go ahead and explain slightly as we come up with civilizations. So let me just leave it out there. Well, how many? I guess we can start with the first one you notice and where, and then we can move on to other ones.
Well, it's gonna be more simplistic, so I'll go first because I know that Ray has a lot more to unpack than me. But I think that we saw about 3 types of civilizations, no more.
I want to say yes and no, but I want to hear Ray.
Well, it depends what scale you're using. If you're using the 0 to 5 scale, it was probably 3. Certainly ones that we can identify from human history. There was medieval, industrial revolution, technology era, like IC era. There was post-apocalyptic high-tech future, and then there was basically becoming energy creatures and going off into another dimension. So I counted 5 in that sort of nomenclature.
So here's the way that I counted it, and I don't remember what scale I used.
I used
But
the
it
1
will
to
make
5.
it would make sense when I go over it. And let's talk about this for a minute. So type 0 is a primitive and emerging civilization that harness energies primarily from basic resources like wood, coal, and fossil fuels. That's type 0.
And frozen peas.
And let's not forget about frozen peas.
Very important.
My wife was wondering, what is that?
These catapults.
So now,
have you ever been hit by a frozen pea? It really hurts.
Well, I kind of wonder what happened if one of those peas would have just fall down.
Well, what I thought of is Indiana Jones running on the temple.
Oh, dear.
So, the type 1 civilization, also known as a planetary civilization, capable of harnessing and controlling all of the energy resources available on its home planet. So, I believe this is a civilization that we notice
Psst, this
closer
is in a
to
freezer. It's not on a plate.
freezer. Yes, in a freezer. Closer to the end of the, and this is when they were just using all the available resources that they have to their disposal. Type 2 civilization is also referred as to a stellar civilization capable of harnessing and utilizing the energy output of its entire parent star. So here's where I wanted to bring this conversation to. This is basically when we see them leave, right? Because they left. Apparently, that freezer, we're gonna make this equals planet, right? For this example, because it's still inside a freezer. So when they left, but it also could be type 3. Also known as a gigantic civilization capable of harnessing and controlling the energy output of the entire galaxy. But we can't really possibly see this from the show that we watched. There's no indication, and we don't get any clues. All we see is that they disappear a singularity. What do you guys think about this? And this is the scale that I'm using to gauge this 10-minute show in a freezer. And I have to point out.
Because that makes sense.
In the freezer.
Let's apply some really hard science logic to a really fluffy science fantasy and see how well that goes.
Oh boy.
In other words, let's kill the vibe.
Oh, Robert's good at that. He's got a gun and a knife, and the vibe is dead.
Star Wars is not science; it's fantasy.
No, it is true.
And Harry Potter is science fiction. Okay, so moving.
Steampunk, apparently.
Wasn't Harry and the Hendersons like the 9th episode of Harry Potter?
Well, Robert goes under the pretext that anything that we don't understand, it looks like magic, even though it's science.
Oh, well, that it's a valid point to a point.
It's nanites. They use nanites. Nanites did it.
So.
Yeah, hey, I can win Guardian Leviosa on my ED.
Wasn't that what caused it?
No, that's what kicked it up, bro.
Oh God. Okay.
I use some. I used to combine with Petrificus totalus.
Is that what you've been smoking?
Oh God. So so going back to the
Moving on.
going back to the question.
Hashtag derailed much?
Gio, what is your thought about that? It seems like you were using kind of like the same scale I was.
The 1 to 5, yeah. That's why I don't think that there was some kind of interstellar traveling happening. But I think that by the end of it, they actually got to the point that they could harness stars' power, even though there was no visual star in there. You know, when you look at the type of technology that they were using to reach singularity, I think that that's what it was when they have the dildo buildings looking like.
And they actually said, well, that doesn't move right.
If the Pixar didn't do it, that building did the work.
Ray, I know you probably have a
And I think that Ray got the point when I said 3 because he right away specified 1 to 5.
Mhm, mhm.
That's what I said. Civilization type 3.
Yeah.
Of course, there's a lot of evolution throughout human civilization when you look at them from the medieval standpoint or the Stone Age, really, all the way to super quantum dildo looking buildings.
Don't forget the singularity.
Yeah, the singularity. Ray, what is? I know you probably have your negative. I mean, I can see it. You're
Destroy it.
destroyed about the civilization types.
I mean, the scale that you're using works in an open system where you have a sun and planets and a solar system and a wider galaxy and all those things, which we as humans have, and other races, beings that could develop in other star systems would have. These guys didn't have that. They had the contents of the freezer. So
Hey, they had the motor of the freezer. That was their sun. It was right on top of them too.
the globe in the freezer so that people could see
I'm pulling a
what was in
Robert.
the
I'm pulling
ice.
a Robert here. I'm pulling a Robert being devil's advocate.
I don't want to know what you're doing to Robert. You can keep that to yourself.
We're very public about it. Don't worry.
Dear.
By that definition, I take it that this guys never got to type 1. Because getting to type 1 means they would have taken control of the planet outside the freezer.
True.
See, I don't think that scale works, seeing these guys never actually left the freezer. Even when the door was
they did
open,
at the end.
Well,
They did at the end.
yes. I mean, but they didn't go outside the freezer. They went outside the reality. So, you know, they went to another dimension.
Sparkles coming out of the room.
It's getting out, but it's not getting out, if you know what I mean.
Well, where do you think they went? That is the big question. I mean,
into another dimension.
I know it's not listed in this in the TV show. I want to call it movie for some reason. It's not listed in the TV episode. There's no indication from anyone there. We don't get any clues. But if you have to guess, where did they went? I mean, it definitely looked like a singularity, to me at least.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they went to another dimension? Do you think they just found a wormhole? And well, according to the plot on the wiki, they became beings of pure energy, which is what was buzzing around. So theoretically, they did get out of the freezer for a little bit and buzzed around the room, but then they went back into their little singularity thingy and disappeared from this dimension or this layer of reality or whatever you want to call it, and went elsewhere. Where that elsewhere is, I have no clue because we don't have the science to be able to explain it. But they evolved past us and went off somewhere else. And all I can say is that it's somewhere else that energy beings can go that we cannot. So, yeah.
I would say another dimension, and the way I think of civilization type 3 too is I am discarding the element of achievement of having stars and outer uh, external factors, just putting into account the type of technology that they harnessed to think of the scale of 1 to 5. If you take away the fact that there's no stars and anything like that, they're handling a type of technology that would be considered. You should be able to be harnessing the power of a star by then, right?
I mean, that, as I said earlier, that description of civilization levels functions if you have a star system. They did not have a star system, therefore that's not how it worked. They evolved as a species into energy beings within the
Race
confines
being a
of
gatekeeper
a
of the
freezer.
sun.
So they didn't harness the power of the sun. They didn't even know that it existed. All they knew about was the contents of the freezer. So we can't really use that scale to define them because they didn't exist on that scale. They were a completely different, sheltered, confined
Let's put it this
evolutionary
way: they
path.
were civilization type, so they were civilization type 0.5.
I just don't think they fit on that scale, man. I just don't think it is useful to describe them on that scale because they weren't living on a planet. They were living in a freezer.
Not even us. We don't even have dildo looking like shiny buildings.
Oh, I think you could probably find one or two out there. A bit bigger than the freezer, though.
You're not helping, Ray. Now I'm gonna have to go and look for that.
Off you go.
Oh, God.
We'll wait. Off you go.
Google is your friend. So
Looking for dildo looking like buildings right now.
I would have to say that if I had to fit it, like forcibly fit it into the civilization scale, they would be within the 0 because they never got out of the freezer. And another thing that I can say is we should start something. Like when you say something and then end it with in the freezer. Yeah. I'm drinking a Coke in the freezer. I'm looking at Gio in the freezer.
Gio, can you get me a Pepsi in the freezer?
I'm looking for the real buildings, bro. This is actually amusing.
This is our very own Captain Chaos here. Man. So
they look more like giant butt plugs, though, not like dildos.
Okay, that's a personal affectation. There you go.
Okay, so can we talk?
Moving on.
About the dilation, the time dilation.
Oh yeah, no, because we're talking about penises and dildos, and you're talking about dilation. Where this is going?
Don't talk about dilation because that'll happen.
I think the time dilation is actually scaled up to the size of this organism. If you think about it, which makes sense. I mean, if you look at smaller organisms, they don't live as long as we do. Even insects, they live months at most. Like, for example, a good example I can come up right up top of my head: a praying mantis just lives 10 months. That's the full extent of its life. And I think that a working ant lives like 120 hours only.
Let me go ahead and tell you my thought, and see.
I'm saving that for the science behind science fiction.
Ooh, he's prepared.
I think
he didn't have a plug, but
I think, and I'm just gonna give you out my penny here. I think that they would have to be in a different dimension. I don't know that the size would have to play a big part into why they move faster than us. Considering we talked about things that have lost heat, they would be slower, not faster. because
Hmm.
the freezer. So that's where I was kind of wondering, like that doesn't quite feel right to me. And of course we'll probably find out a little bit more about time dilation at the end of the show. But I just wanted to leave that out there. I think that they would have to be in a different dimension, and this would have to be a window. Um, Maybe not necessarily dimension. I think it would be most likely a another, like a multiverse, a different universe, and this is a window into that universe for that to kind of make slight sense to me. Um, but that's where my thought out. What do you think about? And I don't know if Ray, you want to chime in because I know this is your segment. If there's anything you can say about that, but what do you think about what I just said, Gio?
I thought at some point that another dimension was part of it. Um, they could have come from another dimension. Oh my!
Yeah, you're good. You're good. And
And he's gone.
we lost chaos.
I'm sure we've still got some of it kicking around here somewhere. But
So I don't know how much you want to say about this.
I actually like your idea of it being a window into another dimension because logically it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's a cute, fantastical idea,
Mhm.
but it actually making sense not so much. So,
You see, I was
So-
talking about dimensions, and poof, I was sucked into one.
Yeah. And you know, the reason why I'm saying that the dimension is I think that if this is a window into a dimension, we could potentially apply the civilization scale because we could assume, and again, this is a big assumption, big, huge assumption, that in the other part of that dimension that we cannot see because we're looking at a window, there is a complete planetary system, galaxy, universe, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know that the different, that like the multiverse theory, it's plays better into that. I think the the dimension plays better in my head for some reason. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. And Gio, Ray just started his thoughts first, and then after him, then you can give me
If I don't
your.
get sucked in, I will try again. Go Ray.
Well, I'm saving a lot of what I've got to say for the science behind science fiction because really, if you want to pull it apart, there's a lot to go over as far as how it doesn't make sense. But just as like taking it as an entertaining science fantasy, I could see that they were trying to make sense, but their underlying premise was full of flaws. In which case, there's a bit of hand waving and just run with it. And if you just hand wave and run with it, it was quite entertaining and even vaguely educational, with covering things like evolution and what the future of humanity might be like as far as us evolving into beings of energy. That's been postulated quite a number of times, and it's a very interesting field of scientific thought. Obviously, scientific thought because we've never met a race of energy beings, but the relationship between matter and energy is such that something like that could be possible at some point in the future, depending on which path we take. But I mean, yeah, entertaining, but not particularly scientifically accurate is kind of my take on the whole thing.
Okay. Gio, being that you haven't been sucked into another dimension, what is your thought on that?
Well, I don't think that they are a window to another dimension. I think that they came from another dimension. The reason why is when he pulled the ice cubes, he would have tapped into that. That's the only time in the whole film where he actually gets in touch physically with that little space.
Well, what actually happens is he gets the ice out and finds the mammoth in the ice, and then he goes, "There's something else in here," and starts pulling out bags of frozen food that have been frozen into this wall of ice, and then finds the space behind it where the civilization is. So, not only was it like a very limited space that these tiny life forms were living
Yeah.
in, that just happened to be looking like human beings, but they didn't have the entirety of the freezer. They were back behind all the frozen veggie packets and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't have the whole thing until he pulled all the stuff out, and they gave him a bit more room. But I'll go into that in the science behind part, because there's a whole lot of things to do with energy supply and resources and all that sort of thing, which kind of I like to lean towards this is a view into another dimension where this is happening, and it just looks like they're diminutive people in a freezer, because if it was all the space they had, they just basically couldn't do what they were doing.
Well, in that place, right?
Impossible.
Dilation too. I mean, that kind of explain the time dilation in my head.
It may well, yeah.
So, and go ahead.
No, but just to finish the thought, I think that's where they went when they transported, because they became energy, for example, and we all know that energy doesn't just disperse and disappears; it just travels through somewhere else. So even when they get out of the room, that energy went somewhere. It just didn't disperse and evaporated in thin air, right?
Yeah.
And thinking on multidimensional spaces, the scale of things is one of those things that our perception can change how we look at it or can examine it, if you think about it. So in other words, they might look like humans because maybe if we were to be teleported physically to that realm, we would have been just that small, right?
There's a lot of things here. There's a lot of things in play that could give you that result that you just mentioned, as well as giving you something completely different. And
Mhm.
I don't know. There's a lot in there, for me at least.
I wonder if the original writer of this story had any clue that at some point 3 guys from across the planet would be trying
Dissecting
to
it.
tease out a logical discourse about what actually happened in this 10-minute show.
Doubt it.
Me too.
Highly doubt it.
Hey, that's what we're here for, to dissect
Hey,
it. Right?
hey, wouldn't it be cool if there was an old fridge in the house you moved into, and you went to get some ice out, and there was a tiny woolly mammoth frozen in an ice cube? Yeah,
It'll
that'd
be
be
cool
cool.
because I chew ice.
I have another alternative to what happened. There was something in the Coke.
Could it be?
The Coca-Cola they were drinking, or
Well,
what?
they got the
That was wine.
munchies, and they had
It
to
was
order
wine.
pizza.
They were
Other
drinking
wine?
wine with ice, just
Yeah,
like you love it, Robert.
that wine
Just like you
was
love it.
that wine was bad.
Yeah,
It was.
it was
If you notice,
special.
it was still open. Notice how she had the cork out.
Yep.
So they left it out too long, and that's this is the content of this film.
Delicious, delicious vinegary flavor wine.
What? And it developed psychoreactive substances suddenly.
Yep. It's just like eating mold bread. Take it to
You
another
eat moldy
dimension.
bread, it kills the bacteria in your gut.
It'll take you to another dimension.
The pain dimension.
Yeah. No, mentally. One with the universe and all that kumbaya stuff.
Oh, okay.
So
We should have make a drinking game out of this episode. Every time that Ray would say, I will leave it for the science and science fiction, but we'll drink up.
or and add in the freezer in there too, and we will drink up
No, I'm not trying to get hammered, bro.
in the freezer. Um, this was this was a really fun episode to watch. Like I said at the beginning, it doesn't have much content. I don't think it was intended to be that. This was intended to be what it is right now. Just a fun. I like to think about it as a thought experiment, as a what if. I think that if you take it at that, at least scientifically, it does its job. Although with all its flaws, scientifically, not as an entertainment piece, because an entertainment piece is amazing. I really enjoyed it, and I watched this multiple times. It does help that it's 10 minutes long, so I can watch this, in a short break, 15-minute break. But I think that if you look at it in that perspective, and it makes you curious about the science, if it makes you want to research and you discover holes in it, if you find it that some of the topics you disagree on because of something that you found out by researching, then I think it did its job. And this is, and my thought, one of the things that I like the most is that whenever you have something like that is let me call it like this, fluffy, right? Very fluffy, very nice, very entertaining. It's most likely would be something that most people would watch, especially something that's short. And if it sparks the scientific interest, I am all happy about it. And that's why I said at the beginning of the show, if you follow science, if you follow hard sci-fi, you have to suspend disbelief. But if you don't do any of those and you start researching about that, discovery or not, right? I still call it a win because it made you curious about something.
Yeah.
So are we okay to move on to the last question in here?
Yeah, sure.
For sure.
I mean, I know we covered, and this is something that we talked about, we covered episodes that are very short. We cover episodes that the main movie or TV show is about 3 minutes long. And we have talked multiple, 2 hours about that, 3-minute clip. Now, I'm not saying that this is bad because we're doing this. I think it's its own thing, and you guys can let me know if you agree with this. It's its own thing because it doesn't need to be, in my opinion, hard science or following science. All it has to be is really entertaining within the science fiction, and in my mark, it's a plus that it might make you curious about science. So, before we get into the question, what do you think about that thought? And any, whichever one I go first.
I totally agree with you, Robert. It's science fantasy. It's not hard science, unless you do some serious sort of mental gymnastics to try and explain away a few things that I'll cover in the science behind science fiction. But functionally, as a 10-minute piece of entertainment, it does a really good job. It is entertaining. It introduces some concepts of civilization evolution and species evolution, which might then send people off to various websites to read more about that sort of thing and become more interested. And then looking into other IPs that cover those concepts. So, spreading their wings and moving on to other stuff. But as a 10-minute piece of entertainment, I think it's very successful.
And, I think the same thing. Like I said at the earlier in the show, I think that this is made on a way that you don't have to be a sci-fi fan or fantasy fan. It's made universally for enjoyment. If you think about it, besides the evolution of civilization, we would stretch anything to come up with real science behind it because it's made for mere entertainment, and it was beautifully made and is one of its own. I definitely I think that is something, one of those fun things that you can show to somebody and they cannot give you excuse that they don't want to watch it because it's a movie. It's like it's 10 minutes, bro. You cannot give it 10 minutes, and you're gonna be go watching TikToks in your bathroom when you're pooping. Come on.
Yeah. And, when you first watch this, you don't know what you're getting into. It's
Yes.
just a couple, they moved into a house and they go into a refrigerator and everything is normal. Um, Little do you know, there's a uh, how do you call it? Fantasy fiction, science fiction,
Yep.
fantasy
Yep.
in here. And that's one of the things that I found really cool and entertainment to me when I first watched it, because I wasn't expecting that when I watched it for the first time. It just kind of took me off left field when they finally saw and the way that they do it too, when they have that ice cube and he looks at it and he gives it to her and says, "Tell me what you see." And I think that was very clever because I mean I already saw it and I need confirmation, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. I want to hear it from you. And that's when it piqued my interest until she actually went in and looked with wonder inside the fridge. And I was like, okay, what? What? Until they pan over and we can see inside the fridge. And we're like, whoa. Now I'm feeling the same wonder that she's feeling when she looked at it for the first time. And this is one of the things that I liked about this show is how it took me. I was expecting something and I got something else.
Hmm.
Did you guys feel that way, or you already when you? I mean, I know we all watched it multiple times here, but the very first time that you watched this, was that? Did you know where this was going, or I mean, I'm kind of new to the Love, Death, and Robots, so I maybe that's an excuse as to why it took me out of left field. But I'm wondering if you guys had the same feeling when you watched this episode for the first time.
Well, to me, it kind of pleased the expectation because when I watch shows like Love, Death, and Robots, uh, I'm looking for something new, you know. So it just did what I was looking for, you know. It actually pleased me. It gave me that feel of unknown or surprised me, you know, and it did surprise me. And that's something that Love, Death, and Robots has all across the board in every single episode. That none is like the other, and it's like you're putting a badass playlist and shuffle, and you like every song that comes through.
Nice, nice. Okay. Um, and I don't know, Ray, if you have any thoughts on that before we move on to the last
No,
question.
Raising Nirvana, he's thoughtless. One with the universe.
Hi, am I? Had a nice change. I was just going to say that you guys may or may not know Weird Al Yankovic.
Oh, of course, I love it.
Oh yeah.
He had a song in
Amish Paradise.
1993. He had a song in 1993 called "Living in the Fridge," which was based off "Living on the Edge" by Aerosmith. This is going back a ways.
Yeah.
And something's weird in the fridge today. I don't know what it is. Food I can't recognize. It it kind of goes. I they should have used this as part of the soundtrack for this episode for this episode of Love, Death, and Robots. I think it would have gone well.
It would have been perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But I mean, yeah, the number of people that I've known who, especially university students and people living in shared houses, who explain away food that's been left there to rot and go moldy in the fridge, calling it their science experiment. I'm sure that concept is universal across all sort of westernized countries that have refrigerators and share houses and university students. So that's probably where the idea sort of came from when they were coming up with this.
I mean, Ray, for the love of God, there's an episode in Cowboy Bebop just for that.
See? I can't remember. It's been too long. I have to go back and rewatch it.
There's like a black blob that comes out of the fridge, and basically every time that touches somebody, it gets them an infection, and they just are like completely cold out, like with fever, and they cannot move. and they're like it's like a race against time where they're trying to hunt the blob because it's putting down every member of the Bebop.
Jesus.
And at the end, Ed looks at it and grabs it and eats it, and nothing happens.
Ed, you are brave. That's all I can say.
And
It sounds like an episode of Futurama, actually.
And they end up saving themselves because there's more of that shit in the fridge, and they have it like in the cargo bay. So basically, it's before Spike kind of goes out because he's already infected, he opens the gate and pushes it out into outer space. The whole fridge. It's super funny, man.
yeah, I like that episode.
I don't blame them.
It wasn't seafood, I think.
I would have loved to see that in live action, but I'm still sour about that one. So let's, I guess, go and move on to the last question on this episode. And the last question is always, what is your last thought on this TV show episode that we watched? I guess I guess I'll go first. So I find this very, very clever. Taking the science aside, it was not what I expected when I started watching. That's like number one right there. I like how it actually surprised me and took me somewhere else to where I was expected to go. The concepts on this episode, they're not concepts that I've seen before. I would love to see someone adapt this somehow into a movie. Granted, maybe make it a little bit more hard sci-fi. I would envision something like what happened with like the Arrival movie and stuff like that. But that, I digress. The concept itself, I really like. I really, really enjoy this. I don't know why I want to call it film, because
To me, they're films. If you think about it, they are not related one episode to the other. They are short films. That's what they are.
and that's the reason why I want to call it films, because
A
if you are
collection.
familiar with Love, Death, and Robots, you know that every episode is its own thing to begin with.
Except for the three robots, because
That's two
they're
parts.
sequels.
Yeah, those are
to each
sequels.
other.
So this one over here, I really enjoy it. And I think it has the potential to intrigue someone enough in the scientific side of things and make them curious. And whenever I see something like that, to me, it's a plus. And I don't know why. I mean, maybe this is just me. But because I do see the flaws, I put that in disbelief and then
What?
enjoy
You,
it.
Robert, seeing flaws? What's going on with
But-
the world?
Well, it's scientific flaws. So
It's my influence. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
but I still enjoyed it, and I still think that even if you go out there and research and find nothing, even if you go out there and research and find out, oh, this is scientifically is crap, it won. And that's what I said. I don't know if it's just me, but I really, really enjoy whenever I watch something, an IP, a TV show, a movie, anything, a book, and whatever, that it actually has the potential of piquing scientific interest.
Hmm.
And I get giddy. I get really giddy when that happens. So I really enjoy this, and I really wanted to see more. Not necessarily for this story, not necessarily following up or maybe a pre or whatever. No, I think this works how it is. It's done and gone. It's perfect how it is. What I'm talking about is the concept to adapt this into a movie and maybe make it a hard sci-fi. This is something that I would love to see. But that's actually my last thought. I really enjoyed the film, and I really am curious to hear from you guys. If you watch this 10 minutes long, um, did you guys enjoy it as much as I did? So that is the end of my last thoughts. And who wants to go next?
I can go. This is one of my favorite ones. I really like most of the things that are in Love, Death, and Robots. I think that it's a fantastic collection of short films. I definitely recommend it to somebody that you're looking for something new, that feel of new and wondrous and outside the box content creation. That's the place to go, definitely. It's the best of both worlds because a lot of people like things that are uh, challenging to social norms, but I like Black Mirror. But I don't think that this goes that far. It's more in the middle. So it's of good taste. It's good entertainment. It gets you thinking, and it does what TV is meant to do, which is entertaining and have you have a good time. And it has Elizabeth Winstead on it. My wife, she's gorgeous. So I definitely suggest this episode. If you haven't watched Love, Death, and Robots in a whole, go and check it out. That's like one of the things that you can binge watch in your poop breaks and
But not
enjoy
in not in the freezer.
Nah, don't take a poop in the freezer, please. Please don't do that. Robert, you have such horrible ideas sometimes, man. Taking a shit in the freezer. Why? That's like Amber Third to the potents. Like,
Don't go there. Don't go near there.
no, no, man. Frozen shit. I saw that in George Washington Bridge once. Not fun.
Jesus.
For real.
Okay, I think I think we want to hear Ray now.
Yeah, I can't. How can I top that?
Frozen shit.
This is
Let it go.
this is a great piece of entertainment. It's based on some lofty ideas, which I'm about to pick apart in the next segment. But it does what it sets out to do. It's very entertaining, and it's done with a sense of childlike innocence, which I think really plays well into its entertainment value. And like the other guys have been saying, Love, Death, and Robots as a series is really good. I mean, they cherry pick their stories. They're well animated or filmed, depending on whether it's live action or animated shorts. And it's a great place for science fiction short story writers to get their stuff into film. A lot of them are really entertaining. Although season 3, which is the most recent one, there was a few there that were a bit on the scary side. Robert, don't watch some of those. you may have problems with them. But
He's speaky. He might like him.
he might. We never know. I mean, God, he liked Avenger Horizon, and that's pretty freaky.
Nah, he likes space noodles. So
Space noodles.
I think Ellie dramatized chaos because he wasn't expecting it.
no, I love it, man. I love looking at replay all sweaty.
Bad space noodles.
With kittens.
But yeah, I mean, as a 10-minute piece of entertainment, it's excellent, really enjoyable. Leave your disbelief at the door if you're a scientist, and just wander in and enjoy it, because it's good fun, and it may get people interested in human evolution and civilization evolution, and that's a great thing.
Awesome. Okay, so I guess we can move on to our next segment.
The science and sci-fi.
So originally I was going to pull this thing to pieces, but it really doesn't deserve it. I mean, there's things that are just generally annoyingly inconsistent. This isn't particularly inconsistent, although if taken with a hard science view, there's a huge number of holes here which I can start checking off. So obviously the first thing is that it is true that the smaller the organism, the generally faster its life cycle is. So this is why bacteria can evolve so quickly to deal with challenges in their environment, because they have such short life cycles that they can evolve quite quickly compared to larger organisms such as, mammals and things like that, who, they're like, even the smallest mammal has a life cycle of 6 months, whereas bacteria have life cycles counted in hours. So you can see that the opportunity to evolve is there. There's actually some very clear examples in microbiology where you've got a colony growing on a plate, and there's a sort of a wedge shape in it, which is quite a wide wedge, not like a thin wedge, but a wide wedge, where a bacteria down at the bottom here has mutated, and it's evolved some sort of feature which enables it to either metabolize the substrate faster or given it some sort of an advantage. And so that gene has expressed into that segment, and it's growing faster, or it has a competitive advantage against the unmutated cells on either side. And so it's actually got an advantage. And instead of being circular, that colony now is circular with a bump on it, because that bit's going faster than the rest of it. And that there is an example of evolution, in that the microorganism has evolved to do better in its environment, and that therefore that strain, it's now a different strain, is doing better and is growing faster than those around it that haven't changed. It's a really obvious example of evolution, and becoming better equipped to deal with your environment. And that is why all carbon-based life forms that we know and recognize evolve. They do it to survive. If you are the same, perfectly the same for eternity, if your environment changes, you're toast, because you can't deal with this. I mean, humans are the exception because we have our technology, but for everything else, if their genetics don't allow them to survive their environment, they go extinct, and that's the end of that. Perfect example is the common Cavendish banana. Everybody eats Cavendish bananas all across the world. Why? They don't actually grow from seed. They grow from a method called cloning. So basically, you take a plant, you break a bit off it, stick it in the ground, get the end of it to grow roots, which is quite easy to do, because plants actually have what's called totipotency, which means that their cells can revert into a different form. So you get areas that can convert from being stem into roots, and then that becomes the roots of a new plant, and then you can clone the bananas. Now, the reason why they clone bananas rather than growing them from seeds is because bananas used to have these big chunky seeds. Imagine eating a banana and having to spit out seeds every bite. Nobody wants to do that. Everyone just wants to eat a banana. It's nice and smooth all the way through. You can chuck it in a blender, make smoothies out of it, and do all that fun stuff. With seeds in it, that makes it a lot more difficult. So it was decided that they would breed out the seeds and just clone the plants instead. But that means they don't change, because you need that sexual reproduction, that coming from two different plant strains and combining to create differences to make the thing evolve. So basically, Cavendish bananas are stagnant. They are no longer evolving. They have no way to evolve because they don't produce seeds anymore. And if human beings were to leave the planet suddenly, gone, then bananas would be screwed, because there'd be nobody looking after them, nobody cloning them, and they'd die out. So basically, we've done the dirty on Cavendish bananas. I mean, there's more Cavendish bananas than there are any other banana plant in the world. So I mean, we've made them very successful thanks to our desire to eat them, but we're basically taking away their ability to survive without us.
On behalf of Dominicans everywhere, what about plantains?
Well, you see, there are other types of bananas, and some of them would have seeds in them, especially wild bananas. But yeah, I mean, Cavendish were created to supply humans for food, and they're not surviving on their own anymore. But yes, there are other varieties of bananas, but they're nowhere near as populous on the planet as Cavendish. And of course, if a virus or something evolves that gets into those plants and really wrecks them, we won't have bananas to eat anymore because they can't evolve. They can't do anything to change to overcome that challenge.
Okay, I guess Gio didn't like the fact that we might lose bananas.
Yeah, he didn't like that at all. Okay, so going back to what I was saying, small organisms have faster life cycles. So that is true. Now, obviously, the guys in the fridge were quite a lot smaller than us, but for some reason looked exactly like humans because they even spoke English, which was interesting. But I mean, that's just so you could tell that they were saying, "What are these two idiots doing staring at us all day?"
I'm getting tired of seeing that piece of broccoli
in her teeth. Yeah. So time to them obviously flowed a lot faster than for us. So small organisms therefore evolve faster because they have shorter life cycles. That's sort of true, yes. Mutations don't occur faster, but they're just the life cycles come around a lot quicker. Now, could current organisms function at a diminutive size? That is questionable due to physics. I mean, human beings are the size they are because it's kind of optimal for what we're attempting to do. If you try and make a human being twice or three times the size, the idea of giants, every time you make an appendage bigger, you need bigger bones, you need stronger this, stronger that, and it gets to a point where our bones couldn't sustain our muscle mass and the weight because bone isn't strong enough. It can only handle so much weight and then it's going to break. So, and going back the other way, could tiny little lungs function? I mean, the oxygen molecules aren't going to get smaller. They're going to be the same size, but the lungs are going to be like, 1% or, 0.2% or something of the size of a normal human's lungs. Could it function? I don't know, but there could be some serious problems. If you look at the structure of lungs, the structure of intestines, all of these surfaces that are designed for transfer of things from outside us to inside us, they all have very undulating surfaces. Your lungs have bronchi, which then break into smaller and smaller pipes, and then at the end there's these little sacs, and the little sacs have surfaces that are very complicated so that there's more surface area touching the oxygen, and that's to get enough oxygen through into your body so that you can breathe. And of course, if you do things like smoke or you have an infection in the lungs or whatever, and it destroys those little sacs, you don't get enough oxygen because that's all evolved to give you enough oxygen to do what you've got to do. And if it gets any less than that, then you start having problems with the amount of oxygen you're getting. Now, shrink it all down. Sure, you're not going to need as much oxygen because you're diminutive, you're really tiny, but do you have enough surface area to actually get enough of what you need to survive? That's an interesting question. Whether or not it's possible, I'm not entirely sure, but it would depend on the scaling and what would be required. We don't have tiny little humans to ask them, hey, do you have trouble breathing? Are you getting enough oxygen? So it's a bit hard to say, but physics doesn't necessarily change. Certainly physics changes when you get down to subatomic sizes, but certainly not in like diminutive little human size. You wouldn't get any sort of change. So physics is going to work the same way. The physics of gas exchange, the physics of nutrition exchange, and all that sort of thing. So whether or not a diminutive tiny little human could actually survive is an interesting question.
Let me ask
don't
you.
know how to answer at the moment.
Do you think that the gravity of the Earth would affect those small organisms differently?
Possibly. I mean, bone is still made of calcium and would still have the same structure. There'd just be less of it. And of course, there's less weight because they're smaller. So gravity may not be a huge impact because it's still the same structures. There's just less of it.
Yeah.
But there's less weight for it to carry as well.
I was going to add, there was an episode of Deep Space Nine. For all of you out there who actually watched that show, the episode name is One Little Ship. That actually talks about this. Very, very interesting. There was an accident when the crew of the runabout got shrunken to about maybe the whole runabout was about maybe 5-6 inches tall, and they had to go inside the controls. And I'm trying not to spoil the show for you, but they're trying to get to the controls, and they got to reroute something in there to be able to free the ship from something that was going on. And I'm trying to be very vague in there. So there was a discussion inside the ship where they were saying, okay, we're good here because the ship got shrunken. You know, we have the air, the correct size inside the runabout. But if I use a transporter and transport you there, the air molecules, and they actually talked about it, will be bigger and you'll suffocate. So the solution they came up with is they will transfer them with enough air from their runabout. And they actually calculated they had X amount of time to do the job. Otherwise, they'll asphyxiate. And they had to get the job done before they get transported back into the runabout. I just want to mention that because it's really interesting how they were a lot more technical in this episode and explaining that. Granted, it's still, not quality. And they're not in here. Have you ever
It
watched that?
reminds me. I have not, but it reminds me when I was learning and taking my certification for diving. How they tell you, even when you're going down or going up, you cannot just, like, if you're running out of oxygen, you cannot just swim upwards, for example, because as you go down, you got to go down slower, and you got to go up the same way, because basically the oxygen starts getting compressed because of the pressure the lower you go. So even though you have an oxygen tank, if you just try to swim upwards, or you're like in I think in Jaws too, like they inflated something and they just got all the way up there. In real life, if you do that, your lungs burst because the oxygen decompresses as you go up. If you go up too fast, and basically there's a space where your lungs are gonna encapsulate all that was compressed. So it reminded me of that when you spoke about it.
Yeah, I was just I was curious about that. Ray, I don't know if you watched that episode on Deep Space Nine.
I've watched all of Deep Space Nine, but I don't remember all the details of every single episode. So I probably have watched it. At least they had a bit of a think about it. I mean, we've covered Inner Space as well, which is another story where somebody shrunk down and gone inside somebody else's body. And in that movie, he went to near the esophagus and got some more air because he was running out of air. When he was shrunk down and his ship was shrunk down, the molecules of air may well have been shrunk down inside the ship. So how could he then breathe the larger molecules of air when he just went and got some? So it's one of those, don't worry about this. We don't need logic. It's entertainment. So, yeah.
Okay, sorry to derail you there, but I just figure it was notable to mention that episode on Deep Space Nine.
No. It totally fits in with what we're discussing. And it's good. It's good that other IPs are having a little bit of a think about it as well. because I mean we don't have the technology to shrink people or anything like that at the moment, but these are the things that you'd have to think about logically. And you know, I've spent a few minutes talking about, you know, could diminutive humans actually function because, you know, the molecules of air and the molecules of food and everything don't get any smaller. You saw them mining peas at the very beginning when they found the medieval civilization. They were mining peas, an open pack of peas, and they were mining them. So obviously they were using resources from the fridge space. Now, I had a big problem with how they had the ability to evolve and create nuclear weapons and do all this sort of stuff in that limited environment. Where were they mining uranium to create a nuke? You need a fissionable material to create a nuke. Where did they get it from? I'm sure they didn't have a little pot of uranium in their freezer. Nobody does that. It's quite questionable. There was a bit of hand waving there. Now, if we were talking the freezer space in this old fridge was actually some sort of gateway, and it was overlapping with an area on another planet with a completely different size ratio. Maybe it was even another dimension. I could see that working. That would make sense. If they could be mining peas, because the peas are existing both in the freezer and in their world at the same time, but they would need to also be able to move out beyond that space and gather resources, be it mining or food or what have you, because I don't think that there would have been enough resources within a freezer space, especially seeing he grabbed all those bags and pulled them out so he could see them in the first place. He removed resources from them.
Yep.
And the fact that they've obviously been there for quite a long time, in inverted commas, long time for them, not necessarily a long time for us, but they've been existing there for some time, they would have been using those resources constantly and they wouldn't have been getting replenished. So the whole situation doesn't work if all they had was the contents of the freezer. But if it was overlapping between the freezer space and another world, then yes, that could function, because they would have had to be able to get the uranium to make the nukes from somewhere else where they could mine, because there's nowhere to mine in a fridge beyond, you know, into the ice that's collected over time. So yeah, they would have needed access to places to mine, other places. Like, where did the wood come from for those buildings?
The trees, where they, you know, I know there were trees in there, but like,
yeah,
where?
Yeah. It wouldn't have been. I mean, human beings cut down lots of forests, and once they're gone, and it's a huge problem, especially in wartime, where, you know, they don't even have wood for fires to keep themselves warm in winter, because the trees are gone.
I think it's already there, so they just planted peas and got trees from it.
Pea trees. Yeah, no, didn't quite work like that. But if it was overlapping with another world, they could have gone outside the confines of where the freezer ended and done mining, forestry, whatever they needed to do to be able to supply the township. And presuming if it was a whole world, that, you know, there could have been a whole world of other people that we didn't see. We only saw this small section of that world through the lens of the freezer space. And then you could explain away a whole bunch of other things that would otherwise have no way to happen.
Yeah.
So I actually like that idea. You've improved my opinion of this piece. So
well,
thank you.
It's the only thing that kind of makes sense to me when I was watching it. That it has to be. There's no other way.
And then you see you can start using your 0 to 5 civilization type scale, because if they are on a planet in another dimension and you're just seeing a part of it in the freezer, then that scale could work because they've got the opportunity to operate on a global and then a solar system wide scale.
Yeah.
So then your civilization type scale could come into play.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, the other thing that I had a bit of problem with was our good buddy Rob, not you, but the Rob in the story, would be dead. Because if you got a nuke going off in your face, you would be so badly irradiated and so badly burnt. I mean, it wouldn't just suntan him. It would kill him because I'm sorry, but nuclear fire is nuclear fire. It doesn't matter if it's a small ball or a big ball. It's still going to mess you up terribly and produce a stupid amount of radiation, which will just mess up your cells. You'll get radiation poisoning and go all bubbly and dead.
Yeah. You don't go get a pizza.
No. Pizza won't fix that.
I probably would.
Yeah, that's so funny. So like, what do we do now? Oh, let's go get a pizza.
That's why I picked it as the quote.
So you think that radiation at some lower level can just be tanning?
Well, tanning is a response to radiation, but it's quite weak solar radiation by the time it gets through our lithosphere and the magnetic field and the atmosphere and down to us here on the surface. It's quite weak in comparison to what you get if there was no atmosphere, no magnetosphere, and no planet protecting you, which is why we really should look after this planet, because without it, we're kind of screwed.
Yeah, we're in a spaceship. We got to take care of it.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess the question that Gio may be asking is, how small would it have to be to cause the effects we see on this thing? And I'm having a hard time thinking what would that explosion need to be.
Well, I'm not a nuclear physicist, but I've worked in a lab that used radioactive isotopes for labeling during experiments. And tiny little amounts of S34, which is a radioactive version of sulfur, well, you guys don't use it, but you have liters, mils, and microliters, which is 1,000th of a liter. And you only need you only need like a microliter, and you get the Geiger counter and you wave it past and it goes, and you got to work with it behind perspex shields to protect yourself from the radiation. We actually had a rotating roster, and it had to be rotating because one person wasn't allowed to do this job multiple times in a row because of the possible radiation exposure. But we had a radiation room where all the radioactive isotopes were meant to be used. And once a week, someone had to go through with the Geiger counter and check that no spills had been made. And we did have a guy come in from overseas who was an exchange student who was working on his PhD there. And he was very sloppy with the radioactive isotopes. And what you had to do is get the Geiger counter, which usually has like the counting tube on the end of a wire or a cable, and you could swing it back and forth. And we used to have to go across the floor, swinging this thing back and forth, looking for spills. And it was discovered that he had been doing something on a shaker on one side of the room and then microwaving something on the other side of the room. And he had spilt radioactive isotope from one side of the room to the other. There was a line of it.
My God, yeah.
And people have been walking over this.
Wow.
Getting it on their shoes, walking it out of the room. It was bad. He got in so much trouble. I don't think he was allowed to use radioactive isotopes after that. But yeah, I went in there with the guy to help him out because leaving one person to deal with it wasn't healthy. But he's waving the Geiger counter back and forth and it's going as he's wiping across this line of spilt isotope. And we're like, oh my God.
Wow. So where I can hear from you is that this would have to be at a subatomic level, which is kind of like, would it be possible? I don't think it's possible.
Well, I'm no physicist, but the way I understand nuclear fusion to work is that you split an atom, and that atom then moves on. The energy from that atom moves on to split other atoms around it, and it's called a cascade reaction.
Mm-hmm.
So it starts out in one point and then works its way out, much like if you had a field of gunpowder and you dropped a spark into that, it would burn from that point and work its way out as more and more of the gunpowder lit up and moved away. But it will keep going until it's used up all of its substrate, which is the uranium base or I mean, they use uranium or plutonium or what have you, but it's got to be split. And then the energy from that then splits other atoms and then splits other atoms. And then it goes out and uses up all of its substrate. And then all of that energy escapes and you get the massive explosion. So I believe it also requires a certain amount of substrate to function, to continue the reaction, to get something out of it. So physically, there's certain constraints on volume as far as nukes are concerned. You can't get them down to this big, really.
What I'm hearing, it's not possible, and I'm using this word carefully.
I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying that there could be some serious constraints, and I'm not a nuclear scientist, so I can't tell you exactly. Would have to talk to somebody in the know to know exactly what the details were. But I mean, if that refrigerator is actually in multi-dimensional space, which is overlapping with another dimension, who's to say that the tiny people in there weren't actually our size, but in their dimension, our dimension doesn't match to their dimension, and that's why there was the size discrepancy. In which case, it's all fine. I mean, their physics is working at their size because their size and our size don't match.
Yeah.
But I mean, they were using the peas out of the freezer, so they were getting something from our side as well.
I was just thinking, because we're talking about atomic reaction, and it's the action is in its name, atomic level. So if we go subatomic, we're talking about quantum, and that's a complete different realm that is in its infancy. And that's the reason why I said I'm using the word carefully when I said not possible. Notice how I'm saying that it's not impossible. It's not possible because we don't know yet at that level. But yeah, I guess me thinking about what you were saying, it kind of lead me from one thing to another, and I came up to this conclusion. And of course, I could be completely wrong because, like you said, I am not a scientist at all. So I'm just going basis on what makes sense in my head. But that makes a lot more sense to me now.
But I mean, what happened to the guy when the nuke went off in the fridge was that his face got burnt. So that would suggest thermal energy, which certainly when a nuke goes off, there is a lot of. But I'm more concerned with the massive amounts of gamma radiation, which would have permeated his body and turned him into like goo. So
the blob.
Yeah. And the heat that comes off a nuke is a little bit more than a suntan.
Yeah. Cool.
I mean, closing the fridge door, certainly if you ask Indiana Jones, you can survive a nuke by getting into a lead-lined fridge. But even if it was a lead-lined fridge, that sort of energy being released would have melted the fridge into goo as well. So I would think that it's probably another dimension, and there'd have to be some sort of reduction in the amount of spillover between their dimension and our dimension so that the guy wasn't completely vaporized the moment he opened the fridge and the nuke went off. So, yeah.
Awesome.
But there'd have to be something limiting the amount of energy that came across. Certainly when they turned into energy beings, they flew around the room. So their energy was able to pass into our reality and then back into their reality to go into their singularity. Of course, that's of a technology level which far surpasses ours, so I couldn't even speak to the efficacy of it. But yeah, I mean, we are past the nuclear age now. We understand how that works. So that's why I'm sort of speaking with a little bit more confidence in what I think would have happened to their entire house and their entire neighborhood when a nuke went off in their fridge, which would have been boom.
Yep. Not necessarily in the fridge.
No. Started in the fridge, left very quickly.
Oh,
But still, all in all, even though the physics logic is a little bit what the fuck, it is a very entertaining little 10-minute short, well worth watching for its entertainment value. Just don't, if you're a physicist, don't think too hard about it. Leave your understanding at the door and just enjoy it for what it is.
yeah. Okay, will that conclude?
Well, and I think that will make a wrapper on this video, huh?
Yep.
I think so. It's almost 2 hours.
All right. So I want to thank everybody. Yeah. I told you, don't say it's gonna be a short video.
Short, we don't do
It
short.
never happens, man. It never happens. No, we're long format. Long and good. Thank you all for joining us. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I would tell everybody to check our back catalog for IPs that you enjoy that we have covered already in the past. Also, feel free to reach out on Discord. We actually are always active in Discord, always chatting, sharing IPs that we like. We have Animus List. Robert and I like streaming gaming over there too. There is Robert, kind of tied up with the Discord logo on it. And his face. There you go, Robert. Climb up on it. And we are always active in Discord. We're always chatting, sharing memes. We're always looking for party members for playing D&D and also playing online games. So go and check us out on Discord for sure. We're always active there, and it's always fun over there. Uh, and if you would like us to cover any IP of your liking that we haven't gone through, or you would like to talk about it too, but we also takes requests. So if we haven't covered something you like, let us know and we will cover it. Also, don't forget we have a website, so you can go and check us out over there at www.sciencefictionremnant.com, where you can find most of our platforms. Robert does very well the interaction with the logos and QR codes. You should go to the YouTube channel if you want to check out how fun it is all the time that we do that. We take turns though. And also you can also check our this is sci-fi.net, which is a website we made for this is sci-fi network. Robert have created. Pretty cool. I definitely suggest it. Also, if you want to be a Patreon and see all the coolness and things that we're not supposed to do publicly that we still have on our Patreon for pre-show and stuff like that. I'm a little bit more of rails and unstoppable there.
You wouldn't expect it,
Or
but
you
yes,
can call it
he
not
get worse.
socially acceptable. Yes, he does. And if you like to, you can buy me a coffee. I'm a coffeeholic, scientific coffeeholic. And what's the word that you said today? Right?
I forgot that word. We should down.
Oh man, I forgot
Yeah,
it.
gotta write these things
Come on,
down.
I'm gonna have to rewatch this just for that word. Also, I have a hotline. It's mine. Yes, I just have it for hate mail and love confessions. So bring it on, and you can dial us up. So basically, I can hear you profess your love for science fiction remnant or for me. The number is 305-563-6334. I repeat, 305-563-6334. So go ahead and give us a call. And with that, we really hope that you enjoy this. This is what we do it for. It's for you guys, our audience. Without you guys, we wouldn't be here. And we hope that we catch you on our next episode. All right. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.